Hey kids, it's Mr. Fly here, hope you're well. Today I'm going to explain to you how you can sort out the horn on the big old BMW R1200GS. It's not too bad as it is. Let me just give you a quick blast. Ready? Wow, it's actually pretty darn loud as it goes. However, it's quite high pitched and doesn't sound much different to any other motorcycle or indeed car. And I would like my bike to sound a bit more like a freight train. So stick around and stay tuned. I'll show you how I'm going to do that. So when I say I want my BMW R1200GS to sound a bit more like a freight train, what on earth am I talking about? Well, I'm a big fan of Richie Vida's videos. I've mentioned him before if you've watched my channel much. I've noticed on his Honda VFR, whenever he gives his horn a little pip, it's always a great sort of barp noise, which just sounds pretty impressive to me. And I reckon what he may have fitted to his bike is one of these, or something very similar. This is a Denali Sound Bomb. I got this from Nippy Norman's. This is called a compact dual tone horn, because you can actually get this in a two-part horn as well. It comes with a separate compressor and horn. However, for the BMW, it's better if you get the compact one, because it's basically got the compressor and the horn in one part. Let me show you what I mean. Okay, so let me do a bit of an unboxing here, as they say in internet circles. So here's the device itself. Let me show you. So that's the device. There's the compressor section there. And that's the horn itself. So it's basically a little air horn that is designed for motorcycles. Now these draw an awful lot of current, so you have to use one of these, a relay that comes in the box. And also I'm going to be mounting this up underneath the front of the bike, where I'll show you exactly where. So you need to buy a separate bracket for that as well, which is also available from these people, Nippy Normans. Okay, so besides that, you can also buy a wiring kit that fits the GS 1200, again from Nippy Normans, which you want to do if you haven't got any clever CAN bus type loom. Now I've got something called a Hex EZcan installed on my bike, and it allows me to wire this directly into the machine without worrying about CAN buses and relays and all the rest of it. I can just wire this directly to the Hex EZcan, and I'll show you that in a second. Anyway, so that's what we need. I've also bought myself some 14 gauge wire, because the wiring is going to be probably the most tricky bit, running the wires to the battery, and an additional little connector, so I can actually connect it up to the Hex EZcan. So again, stay tuned, I'll show you how that all works. So I mentioned that I'm going to fit the air horn onto the bike using something called the Hex EZcan, which is the clever sort of wiring harness that I've got installed that allows me to connect accessories directly to the CAN bus being the sort of clever computer network, if you like, that runs around modern bikes like this. It allows me to connect things to it without upsetting all the clever computer jiggery-pokery that exists on the CAN bus. So the Hex EZcan, I've made a video about installing that, and I'll put a link to the end and underneath about that video as well if you don't know what I'm talking about. But it lives underneath my seat. So first job is take the seats off, have a look at the Hex EZcan, wire up the laptop and just check out the configuration of that. Because at the moment, all I've got wired to that are my auxiliary lights. And I want to make sure that I'm able to obviously power this high current draw air horn as well. That's the next job. Right, seat off. Never as easy as it should be with these. That's that one. I'll take the front off as well, only because we're going to have to get into wiring. So that's my heating connection there, which we'll just disconnect. There we go. Right, so we can get underneath the bike here. The Hex EZcan actually lives underneath my puncture repair outfit. Let me move the camera and I'll show you that. The Hex EZcan is what's under here. Just to free her up a bit, it's just sort of tucked away at the moment, connected to various things. And you can see on here, it's got a little mini USB port, so I need to connect that up to my laptop now so I can get the configuration of this device and set it up ready to attach a horn to it. Okay, so laptop set up, connected to the EZcan, turn the ignition on, and we've got live from the device. Here we can see that I've selected, or you may be able to see on the screen here, I've selected this configuration such that I've got the auxiliary lights and a high power horn output. I've still got a spare one as well that I can use for my rear heated seat as well if I want to at a later date. Okay, so that's that, and then when I go back to the main screen, here we are, we can see now that we've got the auxiliary lights connected and we've got the horn enabled. Now I've set the fuse on the horn to the maximum value, which is 25 amps, just there. And that's a software fuse effectively, so I don't have to worry about blowing actual fuses or anything like that. I've just set it to the highest one and it says horn enabled. And that's all you have to do. Close that down and now the Hex EZcan is in fact configured, ready to use the new horn. So I can test that now before I actually put it on the bike, make sure it works. Okay, so let's just test to make sure that the EZcan is going to work before I've obviously mounted it up, because that's the hassle part of the installation. So here's the horn. All I've done is got one of these, a spare one of the sort of fly leads from the Hex EZcan, put a couple of spade connectors on the end. So if I now just connect this up to here, so the positive onto there, and the negative onto there. There we go, so it's just connected directly. Plug that into the horn output on the Hex EZcan. We should be able to just see if it works. There we go, so that's plugged in there. Make sure she's not touching anything she shouldn't be. There we go. Right, I'll fire the bike up. Now, of course, when I hit the horn, theoretically, both this and the normal horn will sound. So if you're in headphones, be ready if this works. Oh, man, that was loud. And it's working, so that's great news. All right, test complete. Okay, so now we've got the electrical side all sorted, we know that we can actually fire this up. The next job is actually to route wiring through and mount this up in a sensible place. Now, the horn for the GS is standard, actually lives under the front here. So I'll show you where the existing horn is, and I'll move the camera and I'll show you how we're going to mount this up as well. Okay, so the horn itself actually lives up here. I don't know if you can actually see that. That's this little disc area here. That's the existing horn. And then the new horn is going to be mounted up under here, under between the forks. So again, I'll move the camera. I'll show you exactly where that's going to go. So I'm hoping you can see this bracket up here. This is where we're going to mount the horn. So the horn itself is going to fit in the middle there. And obviously we're going to have to check that the forks still move. It doesn't snarl anything. And this is where this bracket comes in, because it's going to mount basically, and if you can see that, it's going to go with a screw on the front and then mount onto that existing large bolt there. So let me show you the bracket. That's going to see this bolt here. That's coming out. They give you a different bolt that you can then mount that on there. So that's the next job, get that mounted up. So I'm going to crack on and get this mounted up in place. And then I'm going to have to take some of the side coverings off to route the wiring. I won't show you me actually mounting that up there. I'll show you it once I've done, because it's just frankly too hard to do that and get the camera in there at the same time. But I'll show you once it's up there so you can see how it fits. Okay, so I've mounted the horn up there. Hopefully you can see it just sat there. And I've got it, it's just sat in the middle there, so that if you turn the wheels, there's absolutely no snagging on the forks. It turns the whole way absolutely fine. So there we go. So that's in place. Now I've got to actually connect the thing up. Okay, so the next job I've got to do is actually run some wires from the back here, from the connector, through the frame somehow, down to the horn. So I think the easiest way to do that is actually to remove some of these panels if I can, so I can get a clear run through and then try and do a neat and tidy job with some cable ties. One. And actually I can see daylight through to where the horn is mounted, so I'm hoping that I can do a similar job to what I did when I fixed the auxiliary lights, and I can actually run a cable under here, through here, and it'll be hidden just with removing that one panel. So I've decided to start from the back and try and feed them through that way. So I've just made a start to go under the seat here, and I can see the cables coming through here. If I can just grab them at this point. Come on. There we go. Right, excellent, got them. Let's run it under the seat. There we go. So that's the first obstacle cleared. I'm just going to work my way now through here, down and along, and hopefully get them out the front where the horn is. Okay, so I have now managed, with actually quite some ease, much easier than I thought, to be able to feed the wires all the way through from the back, through the engine, back up to where the horn's going to go. And there's a little, there's another cable here that actually actuates the front suspension that I can cable tie these to do a neat job. So what I'm going to do is just tidy this cabling up now, just cable tie this in place, so with plenty of spare cable at either end, and just make sure that everything goes back together, put the panels on and so on, before I actually do the connecting up, soldering and so on. Okay, so that's my neatening up job all done down the bike, so that's great. All I've got to do now is connect it up. So initially I thought I might actually solder some spade connectors onto here, but actually I might as well just crimp them on anyway and put some heat shrink over them, and I think that'll be fine because this is all quite well protected up here. It's well hidden out of the way, and the same at the back, and then it's just a matter of testing it. Right, nicely connected on there, all heat shrunk on there. I must get myself a lighter one day so I can do that without a match. And then all I've got to do now is connect up the spade connectors here. That's the positive. And there's the other. Right, maybe one more cable tie around there, I think, just to keep them out of the way. Right, I've just put a couple of cable ties on there, and I've purposely left a bit of slack there so that as the suspension moves up and down, we've got some wiggle room there. All right, back end. Okay, here we are at the back end then, so all I've got to do here is trim these off and connect one of those little connectors to there so I can plug her in, and we're good to go. So I'll do that now. Right, so I don't want loads of wire, so I might as well just chop it there. And there. Bit spare. Just strip the ends of these. I'm going to solder these, so I'll just strip those. Right, let's get my soldering iron fired up. Before I do anything, mustn't forget my bits of heat shrink again. Just pop those back there, way down the wire, so that the actual act of soldering them doesn't heat shrink them in the wrong position. Right, they're the sort of thing I usually forget to put on. Right, soldering iron. Right, so this is pretty tricky. It's really, you need an extra pair of hands for this, but what I'm going to do is merge those wires together, like so, and then give them a bit of a twist, and then basically drench the solder into that, onto where I'd made that join, and that should make a good strong joint. Nice and hot soldering on. I just want to let the heat from the soldering iron come through the wire. It's difficult with such heavy gauge wire, but there we go. Done. Now, it doesn't have to be a neat job, it just has to be secure. See, that ain't going anywhere. That's completely connected. And then we just put the heat shrink round. Like so, over the joint. And then we can even use the soldering iron this time to make the heat shrink. Try not to melt the actual sheath of the wire. There we go. Stay. And that is perfectly good, watertight, secure joint. Right, I'll just do the other one, then we can test it. Right, so there we go. Two good, solid, waterproof joints. Theoretically now, all you do is plug that in, like so. And now, I should have an air horn installed. So I'll do a quick test and then we'll tidy this all up. Okay, so here we go, the acid test. Turn her on. Nothing showing up as an error. Right, now of course I haven't disconnected the old horn, so it's going to be particularly loud with both of them in theory. So here we go. Oh, that is loud. Man, there's going to be no one that misses you coming with that. That is fantastic. All right, I'll tidy everything back up then, and then we'll have a little sum up. Okay, so there we are. That's installing the Denali Sound Bomb on the big GS. If you've got something like a Hex EZcan, it does make the whole thing a lot easier. As you saw, it's literally just configure the Hex EZcan on the laptop and then wire her up. it's running the wires that's the hardest thing. If you haven't got a Hex EZcan, as I say, you need to buy that wiring loom that you can get from Nippy Norman's, as well as a little CAN bus connector that just clips to where the original horn runs from. You won't be able to run both together, of course, if that's the situation. For now, I'm going to leave them both connected, just because you know, the whole point of horn is that it makes people know that you're there, and that's the loudest possible combination I can have. If I get fed up with the shrill sound of the original horn, I might take that off, so I do get that sort of freight train effect that I mentioned at the start of the video. But for now, I think I'm going to leave them both connected and see how we get on. If I want to disconnect the other one, you literally unplug it and I'm good to go. Alrighty, so that's it for another little BMW Farkle. I hope that was of some interest, and I look forward to speaking to you next time. Till then, this has been the Mr. Fly. Cheerio.